Did you know that an earthquake can alter the speed and the rotation of the Earth? Hi folks, and thank you for joining me once again on Rico's Nature Realm. My name is Rico, and on this channel I'll be exploring natural phenomena. So let's buckle in, and I hope you enjoy the journey. There are a lot of ancient stories that were passed down from generation to generation to explain earthquakes. The ancient Greeks believed that Poseidon was striking his trident in anger on the ocean floor, and this would cause an earthquake. In Japan, it was believed that a large catfish called Namazu created earthquakes. Living in the centre of the earth, every time that Namazu would move, would have an earthquake, and a demigod called Kashima helped keep the fish still. In Hindu mythology, it was believed that the earth rested on the back of 8 giant elephants standing on the back of a turtle who was standing on the head of a cobra. If any of these animals would move, we would have an earthquake. We have learnt a lot about earthquakes, yet there is still a lot that we need to learn, like how to predict an earthquake. Some pets can sense earthquakes up to 90 seconds prior to the earth quaking. This could be from the noise that the animal picks up, or even the change in the environment that the animal is in tune with. This is the closest we have to an early warning system. The study of earthquakes is known as seismology. It is this group of scientists that were able to piece together what we know today. In 1906, an area around San Francisco, California, had a large earthquake, shaking the ground for nearly 45 seconds. After the quake, a report of a fence came in that had split and moved 8 feet or 2.4 metres apart. Soon there were more reports that came in of other fences that had split and all moved around the same amount. This is the first valuable piece of information they ascertained, as all damaged fences seemed to be almost in a straight line. It was from this eruption that seismologists were able to discover fault lines around the planet. This fault line is now known as the San Andreas Fault. Seismologists have discovered the surface of the Earth is like a jigsaw. It's not a single piece of land, but about 20 pieces that constantly move. These pieces are as thin as 4 miles, known as the crust, making up less than 1% of the total Earth. Each piece is called a tectonic plate. Whenever they touch, they cause an earthquake. The minor quakes we generally do not feel, however sometimes the plates get stuck, and whenever they become unstuck with tremendous force, they can cause a large earthquake. The place where they meet is known as a fault line, or a fault plane. These tectonic plates drift on the surface of hot molten rock. The place where an earthquake originates from is known as a hypocenter. The spot where it meets the Earth's surface is called an epicenter. Earthquakes are caused from the extreme pressure, with tectonic plates releasing more pressure than a nuclear bomb. There are 3 types of earthquakes that can occur. The first one is known as a convergent boundary. This is when one tectonic plate is forced over another, resulting in the formation of hills and mountains. Then we have a divergent boundary. This is when 2 tectonic plates drift apart, forming a rift zone. This is where rivers and oceans can form. The third is a transfer fault. This is when 2 plates slide in the opposite direction, slipping by one another. This is called a strike slip. Sometimes when plates move easily, we do not feel the quake, resulting in one of over 9,000 quakes that we have every year that's less than a magnitude 3. With up to 20,000 quakes a year, we are generally going to feel a lot of them. When tectonic plates become stuck, they can move a lot more violently, causing a higher magnitude eruption and being able to be felt up to 1,000 miles away. The most common locations for earthquakes to occur on are along fault lines, and the most active fault lines start with the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This is a fault line that runs down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have the Alpine Belt. This starts in the Mediterranean and moves across to Southeast Asia. The most active, though, is the Circum-Pacific Belt, and this circulates the Pacific Ocean around the Ring of Fire, where up to 80 to 90% of quakes occur. A seismograph measures the magnitude of a quake. They draw a jagged line to show its intensity. With the greater intensity of the quake, the greater the intensity of the jagged line. The first seismograph was invented in China in 132 AD by Zheng He. It used a series of brass balls, with the one closest to the eruption dropping into a container. In 1880, Sir James Alfred Ewing, Thomas Gray and John Milne were 3 British scientists working in Japan. They began the study of earthquakes. They founded the Seismology Society of Japan, and this funded a more modern seismograph. with John Moll inventing a horizontal pendulum seismograph that same year. Most people have heard of the Richter scale. Dr. Charles Francis Richter, a theoretical physicist, created the Richter scale back in 1935. This is a scale to measure earthquakes. Originally we used a scale from 1 to 12 known as the Mercalli scale. This measured observable damage and not how much movement we had. Dr. Richter found a few discrepancies with this measurement as it measured intensity and damage on the location rather than the size of the quake. So he created the Richter scale. In more recent times, seismologists prefer to use what's known as a moment magnitude scale. This moves logarithmically. This means that the scale moves by intensity of 10 for every 1 magnitude earthquake with no upper limit. Earthquakes can be catastrophic, causing tsunamis, mudslides, property damage and even death. Land can sometimes either rise or fall by several feet, changing the Earth's shape. Earthquakes can change the speed of the Earth's rotation, with a Chilean earthquake speeding up the planet's rotation by 1.2 microseconds, and another in Sumatra in 2004 shortening the day by 6.8 microseconds. Over the last 4,000 years, we've had approximately 13,000 people die from earthquakes. We have also had earthquakes in the North and South Poles. These are referred to as either icequakes or cryoseism. We can also get moonquakes as well. The third most destructive earthquake ever recorded was a 9.1 magnitude earthquake that occurred on December 26, 2004. The epicenter was off the west coast of Indonesia. This is the longest quake that was ever recorded, lasting 8 to 10 minutes. The eruption itself did not cause much destruction. The worst countries that were hit were from a tsunami that followed. The countries include Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand, India and Myanmar, hitting in some places with a tsunami at around 100 feet high. As a result from this quake, 227,000 people lost their lives across 14 countries. On March 27, 1964, in Alaska, a 9.2 magnitude quake lasting 4 minutes and 38 seconds that caused property damage along with a tsunami. In the end, 131 people died. Now called the Great Alaskan Earthquake, 600 miles of fault line was ruptured. On May 22, 1960, the most destructive earthquake occurred in Valdivia, Chile, with an intensity at magnitude of 9.4 to 9.6. The earthquake struck near the town of Lemeco, affecting an area of 500 to 1,000 kilometres, or 311 to 621 miles. As a result, it caused 82 feet tsunamis and nearly half the city's buildings were uninhabitable by the end, with 1,000 to 6,000 people perishing. Aftershocks lasted across the planet for days after the initial eruption. That's all for me, folks. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.